The Academy Nicholl Fellowship has enormous significance for me as a screenwriter and as a governor of the screenwriters branch of the Academy. The Academy has 17 branches, but ours is the only branch with a dedicated fellowship that allows us to extend a hand to the next generation of emerging artists in our field. It's an incredible privilege. The existence of the Nicholl Fellowships attests to the facts that writing is foundational to cinema. Those of us on the Nicholl Committee believe that the importance of mentorship in young writers cannot be overstated, and I can really speak from my own haphazard experience. When I broke into the film business in 1980, I was completely clueless about the art and the business of screenwriting. I was from a small town in the South, and I went to New York seeking a way to make movies. I kept my day job there while I was still trying to teach myself to write at night and on weekends. And I knocked on a lot of doors in New York, looking for a way into filmmaking. After really zero success, two things finally happened. Some friends and I put on a small fringe production of a play that I had written on off-Broadway in the basement of the Ansonia Hotel. And an agent, small-time agent, who was working on her own, saw the play and suggested that I try writing for film, and I gave her a screenplay that I was working on, and somehow she managed to sell it. That was how I got in. At the time, there was really very few female screenwriters working in Hollywood. I was so hungry for a mentor and so keen to try and understand filmmaking better that I used to just cold approach film editors at screenings and so forth and ask if I could sit in their editing rooms. Only one editor gave me permission. It was Susan Frumke, who was cutting documentaries for the Maisel brothers. But it was by this kind of trial and error that I began to learn the rules and conventions of cinematic narrative and how to navigate the film industry. What the Nicholl Fellowship does is open the door to writers who are working on their own and looking for a way to enter the professional world of filmmaking. Because the Nicholl Committee and our team of readers is drawn from every branch of the Academy, the Nicholl Fellowship actually allows everyone in the Academy to serve as mentors for this emerging writers. It's a community effort. The Academy Nicholl Fellowships carries a generous cash prize, which is a huge boost for a writer getting her start. When I wrote my first screenplay, I was using a friend's borrowed typewriter, so cash really makes a difference. But perhaps more important than the prize money is just the simple acknowledgement by the Academy that we believe in the work of these writers who are being honored tonight, and we will back you with all of the resources that the Academy has to offer. This past weekend at the Governor's Awards, the Academy honored screenwriter Jean-Claude Carrière with an honorary Oscar, kind of a Lifetime Achievement Award. Jean-Claude, who has elevated screenwriting to the level of literature through his work on more than 130 films, said on Saturday that too often screenwriters go unnoticed and are like shadows passing through the history of cinema. We want to be sure that that doesn't happen to these incredibly talented writers who are among this year's finalists and winners. Over the years that the fellowship has been in existence, the Academy has received more than 130,000 script submissions for the fellowship. That's a lot of screenplays. The writers have gone on to win prizes and accolades around the world, and I have to say that this year's winners have emerged from a pretty competitive pack. One question I often hear about the Nicholl Fellowship is who reads all those scripts? Well, more people than ever now have to dedicate their time to reviewing the submissions and making recommendations. This year's crop was read by more than 200 Academy member volunteers. 45 of them have won or have been nominated for Academy Awards during their careers. Pretty high-class bunch. So I have to say thank you to them for giving their time. And I want to thank the rest of the Academy Nicholl Committee who poured over the finalist scripts and engaged in a very spirited discussion before we arrived at this year's list of honorees. I don't think that there is a more accomplished group of judges anywhere. So would the Nicholl Committee members who are here tonight please stand? I would like to congratulate last year's fellows who were able to join us tonight. Frank DeJohn, David Hedges, you guys can stand up, Patty Jones, Alan Roth, Stephanie Shannon, Barbara Stepansky. I hope you had a great fellowship year, and I cannot wait to see your movies. We are also really lucky to have with us tonight some past fellows who wrote or directed films that were in release or were at festivals this past year. There is life after the Nicholl. Anthony Jeswinski, who wrote Christie. Aaron Kruger, who wrote Transformers: Age of Extinction. James Modern, who directed By the Gun. And Rebecca Sonnenschein, who's a writer-producer on The Vampire Diaries. Fantastic. So before we begin our readings tonight, let's just take a moment to thank the 3 casting directors who gave their time to bring us an excellent cast. We could not have done this without the help of David Rubin, Bernie Telsey, and Laura Kennedy, and of course with the help of Dina Michelle. We are really lucky to have a casting branch now. Thank you, Mary Jane, for feeding us. Thank you, Dawn Hudson, for your continual support. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the host of tonight's ceremony, who is the director of Albert Nobbs, the writer-director of Mother and Child, one of my favorite directors, Rodrigo Garcia.